Welcome everyone to Bethesda Gaming Saga. I'm Steve-O.
And I'm EldonTheNoble. Join us as we journey through some of gaming's most immersive and ambitious games ever made.
So anticipation for Starfield, which is T-minus 30 days away, guys, really close. We're going to be looking at our favorite BGS games in this episode. Now today we're going to look specifically at Eldon's favorite BGS game, Fallout 4. So Eldon, why is that your favorite BGS game?
So I will try to do my best to stay on topic and keep from rambling too much. Because if you want to hear me rambling about Fallout 4, then you can head on over to the extended episode that you can get unlocked at Patreon, because I could talk about Fallout 4 for a long time.
Right
So
on.
before we get to Fallout 4 and why I love it, that's kind of a bit of an odd choice for a favorite Fallout game. That's not very many people's favorite Fallout game. And to understand that, part of it's also the explanation on my experiences with Fallout, the series. So I tried to play, I remember when it was advertised, Fallout 4. I'd never played a Fallout game. Fallout 4 advertisements were coming out, and it looked pretty cool. The retro feel, that 1950s, the music, all seemed kind of cool. So I went back. Fallout 3 was on sale, or I somehow owned it from Steam sales. I don't know. But I tried booting up 3. I couldn't get into it. It felt really outdated, that green and drab look about all of it. I couldn't get into it. So Fallout 4 came out. I had family share with a buddy of mine who played through them, loved 3. So when he wasn't playing, I started playing and absolutely fell head over heels in love with Fallout 4. And before I knew it, I had 200 hours into the game without ever completing the main quest. Or even really close to it. Between settlement building and modding, which I'll get to in a little bit, I had spent 200 hours into it. Really love it. So I got done with 3. I said, okay, maybe I needed to get into the franchise. Let me go back now and play 3. Let me try that. Tried it again, got a little bit further into the game, but still nowhere. I just was not into it. I was like, okay, well, a lot of people say New Vegas is even better than 3, so let me try that. Super loved Vegas. Instantly fell in love with it. Just really loved it. So I was like, okay, great. Maybe let me try 3 again. Again, I got a little bit further into it. Still, it just did not grab me. I was like, okay. Fast forward a little while, and I start streaming. And at this point, this was after Fallout 76 came out. Played some of it. I liked it. I didn't hate it like a lot of people did. But the reason I don't play that and don't get super into it, because I don't play multiplayer games much, and that gameplay loop of what a multiplayer game is there.
Yeah.
So it didn't really vibe with me. Again, I didn't hate it like everyone else did, even at launch. But still, I realized I'm a huge fan of the franchise. So when I started streaming, I said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stream through all the Fallout games. So I started with Fallout 1 and played through it. Fallout 2. I finally forced myself to play through 3, got through it. And then I was playing Fallout New Vegas. And, life changed, new job, moving and stuff. We now have a son, new chapter in life, these kind of things. And I just haven't got a chance to go back and to continue streaming. But I finally did get through Fallout 3. So that's kind of, in short, my experience with Fallout. I didn't grow up with 3 or New Vegas in terms of that nostalgia like a lot of people have. And that's important to note here in talking about Fallout 4. So in general, why I love the Fallout franchise. Because that's also important to note and why I love Fallout 4. Because I love the Fallout franchise for more of the aesthetics than the deep roleplay systems that a lot of people don't like the newer Fallout games for. Because a lot of people say that Bethesda doesn't understand what Fallout is, and we'll go through that in the extended episode. But what they are hearkening to is the old school deep roleplay elements where you can play however you want. You can do whatever you want. It's a lot more deeper. Why I like the Fallout series is the retro 1950s futuristic setting. I love 1950s imagery. You know, that classic
Mm-hmm.
Coca-Cola red and white look. In fact, I
Oh
told my
yeah.
wife before, if I was going to build a house and I got to design the kitchen, it was going to be red and white Coca-Cola 50s themed everything. The bar
Yeah.
stools, everything. I just love that aesthetic. Always have, even before Fallout, right? That red and white. I also love oldies music. That music from that era. Just
Mm-hmm.
love that. Again, even before Fallout. You know, one of my favorite vinyls I owned is the best of Dion and the Belmonts. Freaking
Yeah,
love,
right. Yeah.
yeah, that era of music. So really, you know, when I got into Fallout 4 and played it, and really it connected with me to where I could get into it. That is what I just absolutely loved. Rocking around, seeing this stuff. It was truly amazing, right? So that's why I love this series. Now, Fallout 4 specifically, everything has a point. What I mean
Mm-hmm.
by that is in previous BGS games, yes, you can pick up things. You can pick up a lot of things. You can jump up on a table, kick things around. You can take things and sell it. You know, there were points to things, right? But a lot of the stuff that was junk was there for clutter, right? You
Mm-hmm.
sure you could pick up a bowl and sell it for a coin, but it's not really profit. It makes no sense really to do that
Yeah.
unless you just are really, I don't know, that's your thing. Most people aren't going to do that. But in
Mm-hmm.
Fallout 4, all of that junk had a point. You could
You're
scrap
right
it.
on.
Yeah, turn it into settlements, turn it into gun mods. You can do things with it. And I love that because, again, Fallout being a post-apocalyptic setting, you want to feel as a scavenger, and you actually do. You can
Mm-hmm.
actually go out and do scavenging runs. Because of that, it encourages exploration. Whereas in other BGS games, you can go out and try to hunt for a legendary weapon. Fallout 4, you can do that kind of stuff. You can go out and hunt for the same things you always could outside of quests and other BGS games, but now you could also incorporate gathering materials,
Mm-hmm.
finding things that you need to do things. And it isn't just, a lot of people want to take that as that scrapping and looting and stuff specifically to just settlement building. So if you want to ignore settlement building, you can ignore that. But the gun modding thing as well. You know, a lot of people aren't a big fan of the settlement mode, and I get it. But I've not heard very many people say that they weren't a big fan of modding their weapons. Well, in
Right.
order to really mod your weapons, you still need the scavenging, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it can still be completely ignored. But I really, really love that. And on top of that, with that, the scrapping and all of that, you have that settlement mode, right? So again, you think about, I've explained before that one of my most important aspects of a game to me is immersion.
Mm-hmm.
If you are a scavenger, and this is a post-apocalyptic society where the tone in a lot of it is rebuilding, it makes sense that you are also a part of that rebuilding,
Oh
that
yeah.
reestablishing society. And yes, settlement mode you could tell was on the chopping block most of the time of development, but still, it is really good to be able to role play, and it's immersive. Uh, so yeah, I would say that. But you know, the intangible thing is that while yes, you know, if you actually look at it numerically speaking, Fallout 4 and its DLCs has less quests than Skyrim and its DLCs, right? And so to a lot of
Wow.
people, after coming off of Skyrim, that would be disappointing. I
Yeah.
totally get that, right? If you are playing an RPG for questing, which think about RPGs, that's
Yeah.
the bread and butter of it, that would be disappointing. But what I like about Fallout 4 is what it spends more time doing is allowing you to make your own fun and adventures
Mm-hmm.
specifically in Fallout 4. So imagine this. Let me paint the scenario. So you could find yourself working on a weapon that you want to mod. You need some adhesives for your gun because you use a lot of adhesives for stuff like that. And it's semi rare for you to get based on how much you use versus how easy it is to find. You don't want to spend time getting involved in quests and a story and talking with people. You just want to go out and get your supplies you need, just like someone would do in a post
Yeah.
apocalyptic setting like that. So you go to one location, you get tons of junk. Not quite enough adhesive, though, because again, it's not super, super common. But you're on your way to another location to get scrap, and you stumble on a place where you can put a settlement. But you need to clear out a building nearby that's keeping them from establishing settlement.
Mm-hmm.
And you realize, well, yes, this is technically a quest. There's not much to it. And you know, well, that building should have plenty of scrap. So I guess I'll just go do that. So you go and you do that. You get enough adhesive and you get way more junk. You come back to that place to establish a settlement, and you build one there, a basic one that you can, later go and get some more resources, or you build a few shops that you can come back later and collect some caps from. Then you go back home and make your weapon. The whole time shooting and engaging with different kinds of enemies that act in different ways. Now, you have done several activities here without ever really interacting with handcrafted quests. You have created your own adventure while
Yeah.
doing these very different activities, right? You're not just
Right on.
exploring and
Absolutely.
gathering loot. You're balancing resources, making sure you have enough.
Mm-hmm.
You're building, you're crafting, you're doing all these things. It's really wonderful way that you can do very many different things,
Yeah, I mean, you put it perfectly, and the way you spun that. It's nothing I ever really. I can't recall that. It's been so long since I played Fallout 4, but the way you spun that, I mean, that should be like on the back of the box when you buy the game. I mean,
Right.
that it should. The way you spun that was perfect.
Yeah, Fallout 4, I watched somebody break it down on he did a, I think they were both like hour-long videos. I can't remember. I wish I would have thought about this because I would have credited the creator. But he did an hour-long video that was basically why Fallout 4 is better than you remember, and
Mm-hmm.
another video basically talking about the faults of Fallout 4. So he wasn't just, fanboying it.
Sure.
And I really, listening to it, I really realized how poorly BGS communicated, or the marketing team, whatever, communicated that exploration game loop about how, again, you're in a post apocalyptic setting where you're supposed to feel like a scavenger because,
Mm-hmm.
again, it's post apocalyptic. And they're setting these gameplay loops, this exploration to encourage that. But at no point in any of the marketing, any of the talk, anything is that really focused on. And it's disappointing because a lot of people miss that. A lot of people play it, say, they don't like it because it's not Elder Scrolls, or
Yeah.
they don't like it because it's not old school Fallout, or it's not good because the gunplay feels weak compared to first person shooters, right? They don't really realize the kind of exploration scavenging game loop is there. It truly does capture that feeling of living in a post-apocalyptic survivor type situation, going
Mm-hmm.
scavenging out like that. I've said it before on a podcast, immersion is incredibly important for me. And to me,
Sure.
that is why Fallout 4 is an incredibly immersive experience, is what I just explained.
Yeah. And I mean, you said, I don't even remember. Granted, it's been a while since I played, but I don't remember anything about the settlement building. Like, I can't recall anything about it. Like, you've talked about it, and I thought I kind of glazed over it because I thought, oh, I must have done it. But I can remember going through, and kind of like with you in Fallout 3, I didn't play Fallout 4 straight through. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
why I got sidetracked, but I remember I came back. I was late in the main campaign, and I came back to finish that, and then I didn't play after that. So I
Right.
probably
Yeah.
missed out on a lot of the, like you said, the core basics of the settlement building and the exploration and the feeling like a real scavenger.
Yeah. Now, the settlement building, like I said, is one of the things that it's obvious that was on the chopping block for a while
Mm-hmm.
in development, as they have said, because it's there, but it doesn't feel impactful,
Yeah.
and it's to the side, but it's just in a very weird place. I wish they would have been able to commit to it earlier on in development, because they
Mm-hmm.
could have done something even more special with it. But now, at the same time, we're talking about, why I love Fallout 4. It is completely understandable if you play an RPG for the questing, right? Which is
Yeah.
100% understandable, because in reality, that's kind of what the core most feature of an RPG is the quest more than anything
Mm-hmm.
else, is questing. That
Sure.
compared to Skyrim, with having less quests, right? And a less
Yeah.
focus on that handcrafted storytelling, it would be disappointing. But again, this make your own adventure is where Fallout 4 shines.
And that's
Rewarding
so cool.
rewarding exploration, the way Fallout 4 is where it shines. Mechanically
Mm-hmm.
speaking, is where Fallout 4 shines more than story or lore. Now, again, I understand that story and lore are incredibly important with RPG games, right? Makes
Right.
sense. So I understand why people would be disappointed. But I enjoy BGS games from a mechanically, game loop aspect more than their stories, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's why the more their games progress in time, the more I enjoy them because they're doubling down. That's why I'm excited for Starfield. Yes, I've
Yeah.
been following the story and the lore and stuff, and that's kind of cool, but it's the mechanics of the ship building, the settlement mode. Not the settlement mode, the outpost mode, the boarding ships, the
Yeah.
mechanics of that.
Like
All
you
of the
said, the make
mechanics.
your own
Yeah.
adventure game. I mean, in that is going to be 600 times the size of any other BGS game, and that's going to make it to guys like us. Which, hey, I love the questing, love the storyline, but I love immersion just as much as you do. And to go walk a planet, do whatever I want to do, that's what's really getting the hair on the back of my neck to stand up.
Yeah, I got you. So while we're on it, so for Fallout 4, what would you say? What did you really enjoy about it?
It's funny, kind of going back and thinking about everything you talked about. I remember Fallout 3 more than I do Fallout 4, like as far as the story and intricacies. I can remember Fallout 4 and the Boston related things, just
Mm-hmm.
because I always liked that area of the United States, and I can remember things like that and some towns and stuff. But I'm really like almost have like a fog in my brain of anything specific like to stick out. It's weird. I can remember, spoiler alert. I can remember like Liberty Prime, and all
Mm-hmm.
that. But
Right.
and I remember like the beginning and the con the I can't that starts to see the organization
The
that
Institute.
or institute, yeah,
You.
not C. I don't know what I remember like about that. But other than that, it's like a fog with me. But Fallout 3, I can like seem to remember everything. And
I
and
got
kind
you.
of the opposite of you. Like I was going to ask you, what was it about Fallout 3 that just you couldn't get into, like when you kept going
Uh,
back?
Again, it really was. I struggle with playing older games, like games that I grew up that are beloved to me. I can't go and play anymore.
Hmm.
I've tried, and I hate that.
Yeah.
The old school like Mario 64. I
Hmm.
love that game. When I think of one game of when I think when I was a kid, when I was a child, when I was younger than a teenager, I think of one game that stood out most to me in my mind as a kid, it would probably be Mario 64. I love that game. I can't go back and play it now. I can't
Yeah.
touch it. And
It,
platformers in general, I can't play. I just have kind of to an extent outgrown them in my gaming taste. Well, for Fallout 3, it's the outdatedness
yeah.
compared to, I mean, even 2015, it felt outdated to me. And then
Yeah.
like I said, the green hue across the where everything looked green
You're
and the
right.
way
Yeah,
it
that's a good
was,
call on that.
I had a hard time. And then I finally made it to was it Megaton,
Uh huh.
and that town was confusing. I hated going in it. It didn't
Yeah.
feel the experience didn't feel immersive, right?
Yep. Hmm.
And that's not always just the time. For instance, I find Oblivion to be more of an immersive experience than Skyrim. One of the things in my
Hmm.
recent playthrough, and we'll talk about this in the extended episode, because the BGS game I'm least familiar with, guys, is Skyrim. So I'm going back and trying to experience this before Starfield. So in the extended episode, I'm talking somewhat about my experiences. But one of the things I pinpointed on one of the aspects I'm talking about, for one, world building in Oblivion is better than me in Skyrim. But when you look at the menu system, the UI in Oblivion, it's a book. You open it, and as though you're in the game opening a book,
Yeah. Yep.
and you're choosing from that. In Skyrim, it's just now it's a more streamlined menu, but it's
Sure.
not an immersive menu.
That's a great point. That is a great point when you break it
So I
down
don't
like
know.
that.
Fallout 3, I played through it and got done with it.
Hmm.
And I don't know. My streaming community convinced me to do an evil playthrough,
Nice.
and I found out I wasn't a big fan of doing like a really villainy evil
Yeah.
playthrough. I don't mind doing the stealing and the that kind of thing. We've talked about a
Hmm.
Starfield, what my second build will be.
Yeah.
Doing things like that, but truly playing and like eating people, that kind of stuff that you can do, I found out that is not for me.
Right.
But I played the DLCs. I loved my favorite DLC would have been the Pit. I
Yeah.
enjoyed that one.
Yeah. The pit was awesome.
I was disappointed by the Aliens one. I don't
Yeah.
know.
It
That
was.
just
It was all right, but
yeah. But I don't know if I'd go back and play Fallout 3. Maybe I
yeah.
would eventually, and because I played it, it'll give me nostalgia. Because the second time I played New Vegas
Uh huh.
and Big Iron, that song came on,
Yeah.
I had an immense amount of nostalgia as though I grew up playing it. So who knows? I could pull up Fallout 3 and hear Three Dog, ow, and be
Right.
like, Oh man,
But
I
you know,
remember this.
you're not wrong though. Like it's hard to go back with games that old now with
Mm-hmm.
what we experience on a day to day basis and go back and say, okay, I want to play this whole thing through, regardless of the nostalgia. It's tough. I mean, I think
Yeah.
anybody would agree with you. You can't go back to N64. You can't go back to. I mean, even Oblivion. I love that game like you did. And if I had to
Mm-hmm.
go back and play it now, I'd probably get through a portion of it, but it'd be. I think it'd be a
Mm-hmm.
little tough for
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely, absolutely. And one of the games that I thought I even played in college, talking about an older game, I played
Hmm.
in college, and a few of us, we had our little group. We had a drift club, as we called it. We played, a friend of mine. I grew up playing on the PS2, but he had a GameCube, and we played on the GameCube. Need for Speed Underground 2. We would
Oh yeah.
customize cars. We had the game fully unlocked. We would customize cars. We had our one course. We would try to compete with each other for setting high scores. We would take turns,
Nice.
and it was so much fun. I ended up having the high score for a while. Then I tuned a new car. I was the master mechanic. I tuned a new car, and then my buddy used that car to beat my high score. So I'm like,
Oh, that's not
I
right.
don't know if that fully counts. But
Right.
now I have a PS2 now, and I recently got that game not too long ago. Thinking, okay, if there's any old game I can play, not
Hmm.
that it's that old, but any older game I can play, it's this one. And I got maybe 5-10 hours into it. I was like,
Yeah.
what the mess?
Yep. We did that
Yeah,
with the Super NES minis to get the
yeah,
game.
yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
thought, oh, I have all these games. This will be great. And like, I got through Zelda. I started playing Zelda. I was like, maybe for like an hour. I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I
Yeah, and
can't do it.
I've never played any of the Zelda games. I have thought about trying to go back and play because on the Switch you have the retro console
Hmm.
stuff. Go back and play maybe the original one or the Ocarina of Time,
Yeah. Yep.
something like that, and try to get to it. And I just can't get into it.
Yeah.
Now,
It's
some of it
tough.
I remember. I remember when playing Ocarina of Time in college because one of my best friends, he's a big Zelda person, and I was at the place and I couldn't figure out what to do, and it was you had to put the torch that you were walking around carrying
Hmm.
up against like a spider web or up against something that would light it, and I'm thinking, okay, I wouldn't have guessed a game this old would have had that. And it was kind of
Yeah.
that frustrating. I was frustrated with it as being somebody who didn't play it, understanding
Hmm.
mechanically what you can do and what you can't
Yeah.
do. And so
Yep.
that's just me though.
100%.
Yeah, now even though Fallout 4 is my favorite game and I truly believe it is a fantastic video game, guys, that doesn't mean I don't have some real problems with it. And I'll be discussing those problems in the extended episode where we will talk about those problems with Fallout 4, critiques of Fallout 4 versus other Fallout games, and answer some Q&As that we received from our Patreon patrons.
Right. So, hey, listen, head on over to the Patreon to unlock the extended episode. And until next time, guys, this has been Steve-O.
And Eldon the Noble for Bethesda Gaming Saga. May your adventures be filled with Nuka-Cola
And never ever with an arrow to the knee.